Hello, photography students. This is Ms. Fitchhorn, and we are going to start learning some basic editing tools in Photopea by starting off with a shadow project tutorial. We're going to start with the most simplest of tools in Photopea, which is the erase tool, and we will slowly graduate to the lasso tools and the masking tools, the clipping mask tool. But let's start with something easy, which you should always know how to use an eraser and how to work with different layers and opacities to see what you're working on. So I'm going to go ahead and go open from computer, and I took some photos of some children, don't worry, it's one of the teacher's children, earlier, and their shadows in the midday sun out on campus, and I posed them, as you'll see when I start with my most basic shot. I posed them out in the midday sun, so there was nice, really super crispy, sharp, dramatic shadows. And then what I wanted to do was I wanted to show them standing still and their shadows acting crazy. So I took another photo of them where their feet stay in the same exact position, but I told them to move their arms around and wave them wildly. So I need to place another photo on top of this. So basically you're layering two photos, and we're going to erase out these shadows in order to show the crazy shadows. So I'm going to show you how to change your eraser tools settings to get really great erasing results. So let's open up by going to File, Open in Place. And then you're going to find one. Let's see, I liked the shadow on this one. All right, but I don't know if I was moving my camera. If you look and see, I might have been like where the angle of his feet are here different than there. So I need to place it proper. So to look and see where to align up the feet, if you go to what's called opacity, like notice I'm on this top photo, and if I'm going up here above the layers to opacity and I lower the opacity just a little bit, I can kind of see the bottom photo coming up through the top photo. So again, using my move tool, which is also shortcut the letter V on your keyboard, and click on that or click V. I'm going to move the top photo until the shoes are exactly aligned. And if you want to make absolutely sure, you can always use the zoom tool by clicking the zoom tool down here at the very bottom of your toolbar, or Command plus brings you in. But what's great about the zoom tool is you can click right where you want to zoom in on. And then I'll go back to my move tool, and I really want to make sure the shoes are like perfectly aligned. All right, right about there. That looks like perfect. Whoa, I feel like I'm seeing double here. All right, and then I'm going to turn back up the opacity, and I don't want to erase out. Let me zoom back out by going Command 0 will bring us back up to like our usual. It should take us back up to our usual perspective. Let me see if I can do that. Command 0. There we go. And I'll want to erase out. Obviously, I don't want to erase the crazy images with the unless you want the statement to be that they're dancing crazy and that their shadows are straight, but my alignment's off anyways. I'd have to crop that photo, and I really want them to be standing still while their shadows are going crazy, kind of like a commentary on this. The still bodies are what distance learning are, bored, and the shadows are what we used to be in regular learning, having more fun. It's kind of like a social commentary kind of thing. So watch this, you guys. You can change the order of your layers, like by clicking and dragging a layer. And notice now the background's on top and the second layer is hiding underneath it. All right, and what I want to do is erase out the straight shadows to show the normal shadows. So if you go ahead and you click your eraser tool, which if you go in your toolbar, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It looks like an eraser, and notice the little triangle at the bottom right corner. That means there's tools hanging on underneath it. Let's start with the basic eraser tool first. And you'll notice when you click on that, up here in your dashboard, this is telling us that the eraser is 17 pixels, which is kind of small. When you hover over the photo, you can barely see the eraser. So watch when I slide the size. It's kind of showing me on the board how big 1,000 pixels is, And if you want to make sure on the main part of wherever you need to erase, you're kind of got a bigger eraser, it'll be more efficient. But as we get closer to the bodies where we want to really make sure that we're efficiently erasing, you'll want to make sure that this is a smaller eraser. And when you're erasing general objects or images, I prefer, unless you're like going up against exact lines, when we get down to the details close to the shoes and to the bodies, I'll make sure that the eraser is more firm and set it to like more 82% hardness. But for this general stuff, I want a nice soft eraser because I want to see what I'm kind of doing. So I'm going to make the hardness 0%, and I'll check the size. And then watch what happens. Make sure you're erasing the top layer, because if you're on this bottom layer and it's selected, watch what happens. You're going, oh, if you click it and it says this smart object must be rasterized first, that just basically means it's going to turn it into an image that can be edited in Photoshop or Photopea. That's the easiest way to describe it. Click OK if you get that message. But watch, as I'm erasing, you're like, Fitchhorn, my eraser's not working. Ah! I'm like, okay, what layer are you on? Oh, look what happened. I erased out the wrong layer. All right, I'll turn this layer back on. Make sure I undo that damage that I just did. Yeah, now I'm back to normal according to my layers. And make sure you're activating and on the correct layer when you do this. So I'm going to start off, and I'm going to start erasing out slowly, letting go of the mouse every few seconds so that if you make a boo-boo, you can Command Z and undo it without doing too much damage. Don't get too close to the bodies or you're going to feather the bodies out, and that won't look right. All right, so I'm erasing the top layer of the standy straight shadow to get to the crazy shadows. Now, not getting too close to the bodies again. Now let's go ahead and change the size of our eraser. Our old school way of doing it would be to go up here and minimize it and make it maybe about 85% hardness. We're minimizing the size of the eraser so we can really focus on what we're doing. Over here, you'll see that there's a smoothness, which means the eraser erases more smoothly. You can always play around with that. The flow, how the eraser flows, you can always go in and adjust those. And then opacity means how much of it erases out. So if you're at 100%, that means it's erasing 100% of the information. If you move it down to like 25%, you're only going to be erasing 25% of the information. Now, that's useful when you need to blend some things, but we're not blending at this moment, right? We want just a nice 100% erase of this top shadow. But to make sure you're erasing efficiently, use the zoom tool, which is located down here at the bottom by the hand, and zoom in. And let's start over here with this form. I'm going to grab the eraser tool, and notice again I've set it to more of a harder erase so that, watch, I can get in really close. I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer, or Command plus. And you can use the hand tool down at the bottom to move things around as well too. If you're in the wrong location, just use the little hand guide to move around. But back on my eraser tool, I'm going to try to erase as close to the body as possible without erasing that top image. All right, and that's what clipping masks are good for, which we'll learn in another tutorial. But for right now, I just want to make sure that I'm teaching you guys good erasing techniques and not sloppy erasing techniques. Now, what's crazy is I started erasing over here, and I could see his shorts over here, like where I took his body stance was probably different. So I'm going to erase out, or Command Z, go backwards, and don't erase that far out. I'm just going to get as close to his hand as possible. I'm going to get a little bit of his shorts there. And I'm not worried about editing that for right now. Okay, I might want to make this brush a little bit smaller so I can really get in as close as possible to the body without erasing the body. All right, go really slow, left click drag, as slow as possible, left click drag. I'm going to stop right there where the shadow is supposed to end. It says shorts. It's a little bit of a boo-boo, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and right there. I want to get a little bit closer to the body right there, so the shadow's like right. All right. Yeah, see, I'm starting to erase the body, so I'm going too far. Command Z. Okay, let me use the hand tool to come in closer to now over here. And again, clicking the eraser tool, I'm going to get as close as possible to the tennis shoe. All right, cleaning up all of the old shadow. There we go. Over here, I think I've got a mess. All right, I think I've got it. It might be a tiny bit off, and then I'm kind of circling the eraser around a little bit just to kind of blend the difference between the old concrete and the new concrete. Just kind of, it's like erasing one picture on top of another. You're kind of blending it out. Now if I go Command 0 to bring it all up front, now we've got this great little shadow project where we have the students standing perfectly straight and their shadows are being perfectly kooky. And we're going to go ahead maybe and turn it to black and white to get something extreme. So remember again, if we're going to put a filter over the top of all the photos in the stack, I would go down here to your adjustment layer and I would first desaturate. All right, and there's that. And then I'm going to go down again to another adjustment layer and I'm going to go ahead and choose brightness contrast. And I'm going to make sure that I'm adjusting it on top of all the other layers. And I don't know if we need brightness. It's pretty much good bright spots, but that contrast will give me that really edgy look that I'm looking for. And there's your project. Remember to name it correctly. Let me close out this window by clicking on the tab and naming it last name. First, oops, that's not my last name. Last name, first initial, underscore, and then name it Shadow 1, 2, or 3. I don't know how many you're making. If this is your only project, name it Shadow 1. If I could spell my name right, that'd be fantastical. All right, Shadow 1, and click OK, and save that PSD by File, Save as PSD, and that has to be submitted to me. That'll show up in your downloads. File, export as a JPEG as well. And then that is it. Make sure you're at 100% quality, always hit save, and that is yet another tool to learn in Photopea. See you next time.